welcome back to Release the Craftin. Priscilla here with a tutorial, question mark? Maybe? Yes, a tutorial for you guys today. Also, a little bit of channel news and an update and maybe a challenge. Let's see. We'll just jump into it and then we'll see what comes up. So, I have been talking to some people, I'm not going to say who, and come to the conclusion that a lot of people in the junk journaling making community tend to favor making soft covers because they're easy, which, like, I don't blame you. I'm all about easy. I've got soft covers on my desk right now, not this desk, on my pile next to my desk, which I'm calling my desk, right now because they're easy to make, and I'm going to whip them together and send them out, and there's nothing wrong with that, but there's also a little bit of a trepidation about making hardcover books, and I figured it's been a while since I've done a tutorial, and I also promised to do a sort of basics or junk journal basics tutorial for you guys, for some of the people who have bought my kits and have no idea what to do with them. Those are my friends, not you lovely crafty people. Or maybe it is some of you lovely crafty people, and that is coming. It is coming. I want to make it a full, like, tutorial, like, real time, and so that takes me a little bit more than making sped up videos or short little dudes. So hang in there, it's coming. But because I decided to do that series of videos, or that video, who knows how many videos, I thought that I would also tackle this at the same time. It's sort of on the same theme, and let's see if I can help you guys, especially the ones of you who have reservations about making hardcovers. Like, maybe you've tried before and they just weren't successful, or there was something sort of off about them and you have questions and you just don't know what to do. I'm going to try to see if I can help you guys make a hardcover, get past that fear. But I also thought, because my channel is almost at 1,000, like, whoa, slow down, guys. 1,000 subscribers. We're like 70-ish away from there, so it's really exciting. I thought it would be fun to make this like my 1,000th subscriber challenge / giveaway. So I will drop some more details about that as we go on. So the first thing to do when you want to decide to make a hardcover book is decide how big of the book you want. Like, are you making one signature, which can be done, or 2, 3, 4, 5 signatures? Are they big chunky signatures? Are they skinny signatures? We'll talk more about that when we get to the spine, but for right now, you got to figure out how big is your book gonna be. So start out with your page, and this isn't necessarily the way you have to do it. You can make your cover first and then cut your pages to fit, 100% for sure, but in this case, since this is going in my thread of things to do with a digital kit, when you get it, print out your page. Get your digital kit page. This is a little sneak peek as to what I've got coming up soon, and I'll explain more about this when I show that book and it's all done, which won't be for a while because I am the slowest crafter ever. But, so this is my page. I have trimmed off the excess sides, and I have here my handy dandy ruler. Thank you, Timmy. And so I know I gotta get a ruler. I gotta measure. Maybe you don't need a ruler. I'm not gonna tell you guys how to do it without a ruler. I own a copious amount of rulers because I need them. And so this is important to me. So we're gonna use a ruler to make this. So I'm gonna actually sit in my chair and not stand over this. So the first thing I wanna do, fold this in half, figure out how big this page is actually going to be. And could I have done this before I started filming? Probably. Did I? No. But here we are. So the size of this is 8 1/4 by just slightly over 5 1/4, not quite 5 3/8. And what I'm going to do is reach off to the side here where I have a little scrap piece of paper, and then also I'm going to knock over all of my stamps, and write that down. I don't typically write down these things anymore unless I'm going, like, off the rails, but I will say when I first started, I wrote all my measurements down all the time, every book, and I even kept, like, a log of the book so that I would know when I went back to go make something similar, what measurements I used. Definitely, if you are a junk journaler, keep notes. It's a good idea. Because I wrote those notes down in the beginning, I don't typically have to measure again. I can just go, okay, I bought this kit and this is the book I made from it. Open up my little book. Here's the measurements I used. Do that again. Works perfect every time. So what did I say? I said a little over 5 1/4, which I can't actually illustrate with words, but I say 8 1/4. Measure twice, cut once. So typically my rule of thumb is to go 1/4 inch over, unless I'm trying to make my covers look really flush and tight. In this case I am not, because this is going into a big book of shadows and I want the extra space, because if I have stuff sticking out of the top, it'll give it a little lip to protect it. Also, I might go maybe a little bit bigger than 1/4 inch, because there's going to be a lot of stuff hanging off the edge of the pages as well. So that's something to consider when you're making your covers. So generally you'd want to add 1/4 inch, and if I did, it would be 5 3/4, and that's not how you write 5 3/4, because it's 1/4 inch on each side, so it's actually 1/2 inch by 5 3/4. Brain stopped. That's 8. That's why it stopped. And so that would generally be what I would cut my covers to the size of. For this book in particular, I'm going to actually cut this to 6, because reasons? No, not going to cut it to 6. That's a lie I just told myself. Okay, now that I'm done arguing with myself about the things that I was trying to figure out while I was going, I am going to cut it to 5 3/4. It is going to be 1/2 inch, because there's no cover on this side. So it'll sit right here at 5 3/4, which is totally perfectly fine with me, because that'll give you the space for the overhang. So that decided, now you have to figure out what you're going to make your hardcover out of. And there's a couple things you can do. Traditionally, you could use bookboard, you could use chipboard. I'm going to use chipboard. You don't have to have chipboard. You can use anything that's sort of hard. A couple layers of scrapbook paper will make it. Cardstock. You could do watercolor paper if you don't have cardstock. You could layer up some cereal boxes. And I wouldn't go, I would cut the hinge off. Like, I know some of the easier way to make a hardcover is to just use the cereal box as is, and maybe I'll do a demonstration of that for some more inspiration later on down the road. Maybe I won't, who knows. But you can just use a cereal box. I would cut the hinges off, because I'm actually gonna show you guys how to build a hinge system that is actually sturdier than what you would get by just using a regular cereal box or snack box form. But you can use the the paper, I don't know, the cardboard that those are made out of. Layer a couple of those up and get a chipboard sort of weight. Anything that gives you sort of a sturdy thing will make an excellent hardcover. You can even use little pieces of wood if you have those like really thin sheets of wood. I've seen that. So, you know, if you're fancy like that and you have the wood, use it. So what we're going to do is take this chipboard, take my slicer. I've got a big guillotine slicer. You don't actually need a guillotine. You can use your regular slicer. This cuts everything and I love it. So I have this. You could use a pair of scissors, a box cutter, anything you got on hand. Don't feel intimidated because other people have supplies that you don't. And what I'm going to do is cut this so that it's 8 3/4. As you can see, it's a little short. It's not going to make it here. So I'm actually going to cut this to 5 3/4 because this side is the short side. Bum, bum, bum. Can I find it? There we go. So line that up really nice. Sometimes this chipboard won't be even. So you'll have to make sure that you're lining up with your cutting tools lines, because the little cut on the end is not as even as you would like it to be. And then we're going to go to 8 3/4, like I wrote down, and I don't have to remember because I wrote it down. There is that. I'm going to save this. Don't throw these away. They make tags. Excellent tags. Also spines for mini books, all sorts of things. And then I'm going to save this because I think I'm going to use it for the spine. Looks about the size I'm going to make. And we'll get to that. So, what did I say? 5 3/4. Line it up on my tools lines. This one was actually pretty straight. It's impressive. And boom. So this scrap box, this other piece, scrap box. And you know, honestly, I might need a bigger piece than this. How big is this? Under 3 inches. I'm going to need a bigger piece. So this is going to go to my scrap box, and I'm going to roll over here and grab another piece of chipboard. So I need, for my spine, I'm going to need something that's 8 3/4 tall. So I'm going to cut that first. Scrap box that. And then let's have a little safety chitty chat about spines. Okay, so if you have a single signature, let's say, let me pull from my working pile over here of half-finished projects. I have a single signature. This is a chunky signature. I don't know how many pages are in here, at least 15. And you're going to make it into a hardcover. Now you're going to figure out how big your spine is going to be. And so generally how I figure this out is by looking at how thick the actual signature is. Not this back part, because this back part is skinny and lies, but this part up here. And I don't like smoosh it flat and then go, okay, that's how big it needs to be, because I also know that as I embellish this, it's going to expand and take up space. So I generally try to hold it kind of loosely and then go, okay, this is a little over 1 inch. So I need about 1 inch, at least, for my spine if I don't want to suffer big crocodile mouth. Because on a soft cover, you don't typically have that issue. If I pop this into here, it's going to look just fine. Even if I stuff it, as long as I have a closure, it's not going to be super big. On a hardcover, you don't really have the flexibility, you know, to go full crocodile mouth unless you want your book to sit open all the time, every time. So as a general rule of thumb, I add 1 inch for every signature. And then if I know that I'm super embellishing, then I will add either 1/4 to a 1/2 inch, depending on how heavy of embellishing I'm going. If you are going like every page is embellished, you might want to do like 2 inches a signature, or maybe just slow down on how much you embellish, because 3 signatures will make you a 6-inch book if that's the case. And that's a thick book, you guys. So for this book, I'm going to do 4 signatures. They're going to be about this thickness, embellished, actually, because I have less pages to shove into every single one. So I'm going to go about 1 inch, and that's going to be 4 inches. And I might cut it at 4 1/4 just to give myself a little bit of wiggle room. So let's do that. I can't say that there's a definitive measurement for your spine. All I can say is give yourself 1 inch. You won't regret it later. You can do 3 signatures in a 2-inch spine. It's not going to hurt. You might have a little crocodile mouth. It's okay. Not many of us are upset by that, I think. And if you aren't a super embellisher, then doing 3 signatures in a 2-inch spine is probably the best way to go, especially if you're going to keep it pretty light. If you're going to make a blank book, like a really blank book, like no embellishing whatsoever, to let the person who gets it embellish, give them room to embellish. I definitely would not be like, okay, well, 3 signatures will now fit into a 1-inch spine because I'm not putting anything in it, because that doesn't give the other person who gets the book any room to grow. So use your noggin and your judgment, and you know, just keep in mind how much you craft. And if you aren't sure, build all your signatures first. And that's something I had to learn the hard way when I started. was to do all my signatures and then to actually embellish them and then put them in the book, because I like to put them all in the book and then embellish them afterwards, and I still do that, even though I know that, like, I'll regret it because I will over embellish and then my spine will be like this. But if you don't know how much you're going to embellish, or you aren't good at guesstimating, I will say, embellish your signature first. This way you have the full stack, and then you can measure it. And usually what I do before I actually cut this, well, I'm just going to cut it and then get this big old thing out of my way. I say 4 1/4. 4 1/4. Alright, so what I usually do after I've embellished a bunch of signatures, let me see if I have more stuff. Oh no. This is the problem with having like a pile of things next to you. Then you have to dig through it and it becomes a perilous situation. Hold on, I need 2 hands. Okay, new tactic, because I can't actually find what I'm looking for, which is concerning, but I'm going to try not to panic about that. And I'm just going to pull these out instead. Sure. I should be more gentle with my stuff. Ugh. I haven't actually used that. Okay, so let's say you have a bunch of signatures already and they're actually more even than what's going on right here. What you can do, once you've embellished them all and hooked them onto each other, is turn them over, stick them this way on the lying side, and then measure that. And so if you hold them together, it's going to tell you need about, let's say, 1 1/4 inches of a spine is what's typical. So what I do is I look at that, then I flip it back over, look at this together, and I go, okay, altogether this is about 2 1/4 worth of book. So I don't want to put 2 1/4 worth of book into 1 1/4 inches. So maybe the best thing for this is to go about 1.5 inches to 1 3/4 inches, somewhere in that 1/4 to 1/2 inch extra, so that I know that I will have some room for the signatures to sit comfortably, because they're not going to sit like smashed in on top of each other in the book. They're going to be a little spaced apart, so they're going to have some room, so it won't be so wibbly wonkly. And that's how I figure it out when I have fully embellished signatures. In this case, we do not, because I'm doing this the opposite way. So I have my chipboard, and I threw some stuff on the floor. I should unclutter this desk sometime. And you're like, okay, cool. Chipboard. Now what? Now I have to decide what I want to make my cover out of. Lucky for you guys, I already decided, because I have like 12 yards of this for some reason. It's not 12. It could be 12. I actually haven't unfolded this all the way. This was a gift, and I have a lot. So I'm going to use this. And it's a really pretty material. It is a satiny sort of type of material. And those are a little tricky to work with because they are slick. The inside is a little less slick, but it's still sort of a mitch to work with. But we're going to work with it because that's what I want to do. So first thing I need to do is cut this into a manageable size. And because I have never opened this, we're going to see how I do this and wrangle all of these yards of stuff. So I'm going to set this right over here for a quick second. Set my fabric down. Because there is no pattern, I don't have to worry about like the directionality of my fabric. Somebody wrote on it. Interesting. And if you were a more prepared person than I am, you would have already taken your cutting mat out and stuck it underneath. So there. This is the piece I'm going to use. And I'm going to do this a little bit long ways. I'm just going to roughly eyeball about 1 inch over what I need so I can see how much of this fabric I actually need. And I'm going to give myself an inch because I'm going to actually shrink it down a little bit, but I want to have a little wiggle room to work with because once you cut it off, you can't cut it back on. So definitely leave yourself some space to work with because this is not a very technical method. Now you could be a little more precise and measure out exactly how much you needed. I don't like to do that because I like to be obsessive about other parts. So I'm going to slide this up to here, put my ruler down, and I have a rotary tool. If you do not, you can use scissors. I mean, that's what they're made for, right? So I'm going to do this in the safety way and actually stand up and not cut this all cattywampus because totally cattywampus. Man. It was safer this way. It was not neater this way. And then this isn't safe at all. Don't do this. And then what I'm going to do is slide this down. I'm going to leave extra because I'm going to cut this little hemmed part. I don't actually know what that's called. But I don't like that showing in my books when I fold the cover over. So I'm going to leave a little more extra than I normally would. And then about an inch here. Try to make sure this is as straight as I can. Since this book is massive and takes up more space than I have on my desk. I'm not even worried about this lining up. I just want it to sort of be an eyeball measurement. Ooh, good thing I left extra on the bottom because that was crooked as all get out. Slide this down. This is what I'm saying. This is why it's important to leave yourself a little bit extra, especially if you're going to be slapdash about it. Okay, now that I'm done struggling with an overlarge piece of fabric, I finished cutting it off camera because I figured you guys didn't need to watch the struggles. What I'm going to do real quick is just fold this in half, line up these top edges, my cutting board has a warp in it, and it's been like that since like I opened it up years ago, and I don't know why or how to like unwarp it. So, you know, you professionals out there, if you know, maybe let me know because it's annoying. It's not a hindrance, but it's annoying. And if you were my rotary tool, you would be in the place you're not supposed to be. So part of the reason I don't do a lot of these real-time tutorials is because I am a weirdo. And crafting with me is hazardous. Never consistent. So I'm just going to come underneath these stitch lines and cut those off. And remember, I added extra fabric, so I'm not worried about cutting off the actual things I need. So, fabric cut to size. And I could just stick these down and that would be an excellent way to go. I'm not going to do that because I want my cover to be sturdy and long lasting. Fabric will reinforce your spine quite a bit because of its flexibility. It won't wear out, but I like to be a little more secure. So, if you have Tyvek, you can use Tyvek. I will remind you guys that the U.S. Department of Postal Services does not want people to cut apart their envelopes to make things. So you can buy Tyvek at Home Depot, things like that. I have Tyvek. It might be the illegal kind, so we're not going to do that for this video. I'm going to use paper. Paper works great. You could also use, see people use like duct tape, which I don't know if I would recommend. It is just something you could use. I wouldn't recommend it personally because I find getting like the needles through tape to be frustrating, especially because like your needle gets sticky and then like I gotta clean it off. That's awful. Glue. Just gonna use a standard Tombow liquid glue. You can use any glue you have on hand. And this is just a little bit under the size, I was gonna say, but then I remembered I was turning it this way, so I'm not actually that worried about it. So what I'm gonna do is lay this out so that it covers the entirety of dish spine. And I'm not particularly worried about how much it covers of this as long as it's touching both sides of the cover. And what we're going to do is sort of build a little faux cover. I don't know how to call this. Sorry to stop and watch my cat make a mess of my things. So I know that this paper is 8.5 inches. I'm going to be a little OCD about it. And just sort of line that up in a way that doesn't drive me crazy. Still bugs me. There we go. And just gonna stick some glue onto my little spine piece here. Make sure I get like a bunch because I want a really good adhesion, because I don't want this to like bubble up or not like stick down right and then not show through my spine, because I'm using this piece as a reinforcer, so I want it to be locked in. And I'm going to glue that down as straight as possible by lining it up with the lines on my ruler and giving it a little downwards push before gluing that flat. And then this Tim Holtz ruler is pretty neat because it's got the zeros on the other side, which are upside down, I just realized when you turn it around. So you can line it up with your thing. I know that my little dude here is 4¼ inches. So I actually want it to sit a little at the 1/8 line instead of the 1/4 line, so that I know that this is perfectly center. And then you can mark it with a pen if that's what you want to do. And maybe we'll do that, but sure. But what I typically do is leave a 1/4 inch gap. So that'll be right there between my spine. Now, why do we do this instead of going like right up here? Because I want the book to have flexibility when it opens and closes. And the closer it is to this, the more it's going to like catch on that little spine piece and not fold nicely or create a nice hinge like it would. That's not how books open, like this. If it wasn't like stuck to it like this, if that makes sense to you guys. I also wouldn't recommend going like way out here because you want it to be like super flexible, unless that's like a look that you're going for and you want your cover to be super wavy. A 1/4 inch is a really good rule of thumb. I wouldn't personally go more than like 3/8, especially if you're trying to get like those little divots on the spine. I don't know what those are called, but like you'll see. We'll flip it over and I will show you. So realign this, slap some glue on that. I don't have to like clutch the ruler while I do this. And I'm just gonna eyeball how much of this I need. I will add more if I need to. I don't actually remember how much I need. Gonna be generous with it. Realign this 1/4 inch over and just do the same thing. Give it the same. I'm going to push up so that I'm applying pressure onto this spine so that I know that I'm flush with that, and then push down so that I know that I'm getting really nice and flush with my ruler, so everything is lining up nicely. And then same thing on this side. And I should quit laying this bottle down because it's almost empty, and I have to wait for it to like come back down, but we're not going to do that either. Alright, had to check to make sure I'm still recording because sometimes my camera likes to just stop. I've learned to turn my phone off, like all my data and stuff, so that I don't get interrupted by like random phone calls or things like that. while I'm recording and then lose hours upon hours of beautiful footage. It's not hours, it's like minutes. I don't make hours and hours of footage, you guys. I hate editing. Which is why we're doing it this way. So now that we're about halfway through this video, let's talk about the Show Me Your Hardcover Challenge. So to celebrate my almost 1,000 subscribers for the month of February, so the whole month, the 1st to the 29th, happy leap year, I'm going to be holding a challenge on my channel. And I'm going to link some videos below where I have made hardcovers and done little tutorials for that, as well as some other hardcover tutorial videos that I find from my friends because I like to share their stuff. And the challenge is pretty much just going to be make a book with a hardcover. Show it to me. Use the hashtag #showmeyourhardcover. And at the end of the month, everyone who uses that tag, I will write you all down on the list, and I will draw out some prizes, and we will celebrate 1,000 subscribers and everybody sort of conquering their fear of the hardcover. Let's get some more hardcover books out there. They are really fun to make, and I know that I'm maybe overcomplicating mine, but I really want to make it a tutorial that not only helps you understand how to make a hardcover, but why certain things are done when you're making a hardcover. And yeah, I think it'll be a fun challenge, and I hope that it helps those of you who are feeling the trepidation towards making hardcover books, or, you know, the resistance to making hardcover books. Show me your hardcover, and if you come up with a new way to make a hardcover or an interesting take on the hardcover, or your cat walks all over your stuff while you're talking so that you have to shout, you know, definitely use that hashtag, link it up. I will add it to a big master list playlist on YouTube of tutorials on how to make hardcovers, and we'll add that to my channel, so that'll be there till the end of the internet and all time. And I think it'll be fun, and it'll be a really good way to have an excellent resource for hardcover books for those people who are a little hesitant or a little intimidated by hardcovers. So back to the tutorial. Now that I have let this dry while I have rambled, I overglued right here. No big deal. What I'm going to do is get my bone folder and hit up these little gussets, notches, wrenches, and give them a really good crease. And why I do this at this stage is because I want to make sure that this crease is like well established when I do the fabric over top, because when I go to do that, I won't have to crease through fabric and then paper to make this line. I'll just have to make sure that the fabric fills in this crease. So like really get in there. Don't tear your paper, you know, but definitely give yourself a really good crease. Make sure that those gussets are well established. I want to call them gussets because I don't actually know what they're called. I'm sure there's like a professional bookbinder's term, and if you know it, share it, because I would be interested in learning. But I want these here. And then, just to make it easier to fold, I'm going to crease these lines in so that there aren't no strugs when it comes to folding, and then also make sure that these line up when I fold. And you can see already that this is what's going to give your cover flexibility and movement, and you're still going to be able to open and close that nicely. And then you can actually crease this down when you put your fabric on top, and you'll get a really nice sort of professionally book-bound looking deal here with the cover and spine, and it won't look too crazy. You can make your spine thicker. I've seen people do that. I'm going to sew through this, so I don't actually want it to be super thick, because then I'll be like stabbing it to punch the holes through it. There are different ways to curve the spine, so you can get a more interesting sort of look like that. I don't actually need that for this book because there's going to be a lot of stuff going on to begin with. I don't need to add the curved spine. There's going to be some cool tutorials. I will find a tutorial for you guys and link that below as well. I'm really excited for this challenge. I think it's going to be really fun. I know that I have some really creative friends, and there's some really creative people in this community, and hopefully this gets some people to think like outside of the box, especially those more experienced crafters who maybe are like old hats at making hardcover books, but, you know, haven't thought of new ways to approach them, or easier ways maybe, or have their own tips and tricks to share, and I think it'll be fun. And I will announce the prizes as we get into February, so that you know what you're playing for. But yeah, any theme book, I think it'll be fun. Any style, really, if you wanted to do like a different stitch or something, like a Coptic stitch book with hardcovers, that would also be interesting. But Show Me Your Hardcover, I think, is going to be a really fun challenge. And really easy. I think everyone will be able to join, which is important to me. I don't want to do, or didn't want to do a challenge that was like expert mode and nobody else could join in on. So I'm just going to slap some glue down here, but then I'm also going to make sure that I hit this little ridge too. Gusset. I said I was going to call it a gusset. So that I get like a full adhesion. And what you hear right now is my cat looking for a place to sleep in all of my paper products. I don't know why, because I'm recording and not paying attention to him, probably. We have a good time here. And I'm going to make sure I crease that down too. I will hit this crease probably a million more times as we go, especially once I put the paper inside and all that sort of thing. If it bothers you that there is nothing here, you could add little pieces of paper. I might actually do that because I want it to have this sort of same thickness all the way through. So I'm going to actually grab some paper from my little scrap box and stick that in there, because this paper wasn't quite long enough. It's long paper, but it wasn't quite long enough. Alright, so I'm going to find some more paper, glue those in, and then I will come back and we'll move on to the next step. Cut all the way through. Alright, press down and slide. Did that work? Not quite. Close enough. And like, it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't want you guys to be intimidated. I feel better using a ruler. You don't have to. You can eyeball it if you have excellent eyeballing capabilities. I don't trust my eyes. They lie. So next, what I'm going to do is glue this down, punch the camera in the process. Sorry for that. I'm going to start on just one side. And I want the nice side to be my spine side, because that's going to be my showing side. This inside is going to get covered up with paper, so I'm not too worried about anything else. It's just that there's nothing separating this from the fabric. So, nice side here. And now I'm going to come through. I want to hit that gusset with a decent amount of glue. And then I'm just going to kind of blah, 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 blah with the glue right here. That's the technical term. And then spread it out real quick, because I don't want any like glue blobs, except for right here in the spine, to show through. There's fabric. Alright, and then with my eyes, my lion eyes, I'm going to line this up as best as I can to that 3/4 of an inch gap I gave myself. I'm also going to smooth this out and then get a baby wipe from my glue covered finger. Because I can only endure this sensation for so long. Alright, so smooth that down. Glue still came through. It's fine. This isn't actually the final form for my cover, so that's to keep in mind. A real life tip: if you have a thinner piece of fabric, you may want to choose a different glue, especially one that doesn't get all blobby like Fabri-Tac does. Or you might just want to brush yours out better and use less. But I will say, having done this since I have started my whole journal making journey, things like this have always not been like, oh my gosh, my project is ruined and I have to like give up forever. But like moments of learning and innovation. So you could, if your fabric does this might dry totally differently. I don't think so because it's satin type stuff, or sateen, because I don't think it's real satin. You could always stencil over this, ink it up, add your focal point there, paint on it, things like that to cover it up. I always find opportunities like this to be opportunities and not actual like mistakes or incidences where I have to like panic. But just, it gives you a chance to innovate and come up with some new things that maybe you might not have considered that'll make your cover just a little bit more special, or whatever you're working on, really. Just a little bit more special than something standard might have been. So I'm just going to glue up the rest of this now that I have this piece locked down. I'm going to try to be a little neater. Like I said, this isn't the final form of my cover, so I'm not too worried about those glue blobby dudes. Although I don't want to have a bunch because it's just messy looking on camera right now as we're doing it. So give that a little smooth. And because I actually want it to adhere really well in this gusset and on the front and spine, I'm going to go over it again just to make sure I get a really good adhesion. Now, I'm not super worried about getting it like corner to corner, end to end and all that, because we're going to flip it over and like secure the fabric on the other side. Let's see, did I do a better job this time? Maybe. Oh, it's a horrible sound. And then I'm going to, like I said, hit these gussets up again just to make sure that fabric gets nicely settled in there. That is why I add the extra glue to the gussets, just to make sure that this grabs really well. Because like I said, I am the type of person who, when I do have my final cover, like to work this and make this divot like actually visible, so that I do get that nice line. So it's really important at every stage to give it a good crease. Glue it off my finger. Now we're going to flip it over, and a motorcycle's going to go by for some reason. I have a little bit, I think, more than I need here, but I'm not going to worry too much about that just yet. It's a little less than I need here, but like I said, I usually go for about ½ an inch here, so I'm not too worried about that either. I just wanted to make sure that I got manageable proportions. So, what are we going to do with all this extra overhang? And oh my gosh, I need to clean up my desk. First, I'm going to put the lid on here so I don't have any, like, surprise Fabri-Tac escapage. I have this, like, mitering tool and glue on my finger still, from colorwayarts.com. You don't actually need a mitering tool. You could do the same thing with your ruler. I have this tool, so I'm going to use it. What I will say to note about this tool is that you can make one of these yourselves. You know, you can get the corner of a box, cut the corner off, and then stick that down wherever you need it to, and make your own tool. But be aware that there is a gap intentionally left here where these two pieces come together. And so when you are mitering your own corners, you're going to want to leave that little bit of extra space just to make sure that your corner is not peeking out. That is the tip I learned. Before, I used to just cut these and be like, all right, I mitered my corner, and cut it like right up here against the tip. And then every time I folded my paper or my fabric over, I'd be like, huh, there's cardboard showing still. Like, that doesn't work for me. What do I do? And then when I got this tool, I realized that they left a little space here, which prevents that. but also lets you have a little more control over that. In certain fabrics or paper, you can trim out the little bit of excess or overlap there, and it'll also still make sure that you have perfectly covered your corner, which is why I like using this tool. I'm not saying go buy it. Definitely go make your own. It's not expensive though. It was like $10, and it's gonna last until I lose it, so worth it. But hashtag not sponsored. So, simple, easy peasy. We're going to miter these corners, and then I will come right back and show you what's next. Right, we're back, and you might have noticed a few things, because I did not notice that I was not filming. So, I mitered all the corners, and then I went and trimmed everything to 1/2 inch, because, not gonna lie, OCD was coming in big time. So, all that's left is to glue all this stuff down and sort of finalize our cover and then do the insides. So, real nice and easy, unless your Fabri-Tac is halfway empty and you have to wait the 1,200 years for it to hit that nozzle. There we go. Going to add a nice bead of glue here, and this is kind of important to hit that edge, but also make sure that you get enough on there that your edge comes over. I'm going to leave this on its side. Dangerous, I know, but we're going here. What I like to do to make sure that my fold over is even is actually let the table do the folding for me. And then we're just going to stick this down, smooth it out. I typically always do short edges and then long edges. However you do it does not matter. I will say it is easier to do one side and one side as opposed to trying to go like here, 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 and here. So much glue because I left it on its side. Not too worried about it. And I think that might be like a thing. I think maybe people get a little intimidated because they think like hardcovers are a little more like prestige. Really turn it up because I'm going to just keep chasing that big old bead of glue. And maybe they get like a little intimidated because they're like, oh, it's a hardcover, it's supposed to be really super nice, it's got to be really perfect. It doesn't really. You can be kind of just as slapdash as you can with the soft cover. So, if you have that miter tool or you made your own miter tool, you're going to have that little bit of extra fabric. On thinner fabrics and papers, I just sort of punch it in with my finger and stick it to itself. Fabri-Tac. And you can also trim that off if it bugs you. It does not bug me in the least. Unless it's like a thicker fabric, at which point then I do trim it off because it gets bulky. So again, make sure you hit those gussets really well. And then the glue won't come out. There we go. And then I just overlap the fabric just a little bit, and then I want to make sure I hit that little corner too because I want those to be really secure. You can be a little more haphazard if you are using like what are those called? You know, those little metal corner covered things. You know, the fancy metal corner things. Oh my god, I don't know what they're called. So, stuck my fingernail in there to make sure that little piece of fabric got in. And then I'm just going to go over it a couple times to make sure that one, these gussets get nice and secured. And then two, there isn't any fabric hanging out. And luckily Fabri-Tac gives you a little bit of wiggle room to work with. And here's where I'm going to pull really tight. So I don't know if I said that. I don't think I did. While doing the fabric on the cover, try to resist the urge to like put your fabric down and pull, because when you move your book, you're going to like put strain on that fabric, but also you're going to get kind of a wonky distortion of your fabric. This would be the point where you'd want to like cinch down any edges on your fabric and give it that like final pull and stretch so that it will be like firm and secure. Come out of the bottom. I will do like an official challenge announcement video, because I know that a lot of people are going to be like, oh my god, this video is so long and I don't want to watch all of it just to figure out the details and information, or maybe you don't want to have to like search back through this video to figure out where I talked about it. So don't worry. In addition to leaving the information in the description box, I will also do an official challenge announcement video with all the details, like in writing, maybe even like a professional. And set that up and also announce it on my Instagram page and stuff like that. And if April reminds me, I will also announce it on the Facebook Alternative Junk Journals group. I don't actually use Facebook very often, so if you guys have been like commenting or shouting out stuff to me on there, I rarely check Facebook unless somebody tells me I have to, or you know, bullies me into posting on there. So definitely reach out to me on Instagram. I have a coffee page. If you guys want to support my channel or just follow me, I will link updates and stuff on there as well. And you can comment on the coffee page, I believe. I think you can only comment if you are a supporter, but you can follow me there if you would like and buy me a cup of coffee, which would make me very happy because coffee is my favorite beverage. And also kind of see what I'm up to there. And I have an email address, which I might start adding to these videos. If people want to email me and they don't have Instagram or, you know, stuff like that, I might do that. Let me know if that's something you're interested in. And if I remember, I will add it to the description box. But that's all sides glued down. I don't need this anymore. And one day I will get all the glue off my fingers. But what's next? So the last sort of step that I have for you guys today, since we're just building the cover and not actually putting signatures in, I don't know if I'll do a video for that because there's a bunch of videos on just putting signatures in. And I feel like if you know how to put signatures into a soft cover, you probably have a general idea of how to put signatures into a hardcover. But I have selected a paper for the inside. I have 2 sheets because I don't know how much of this I'm going to cut. I think I only need the one. I believe, yes. So, I have selected my paper. You could use fabric if you have a sewing machine and you don't, like, maybe you're not worried about, like, weird frayed edges sticking out there. There's a lot of different ways to cover the inside of your book. My preferred method is paper. So this really pretty paper that matches the theme of the book. And I like to leave myself about 1/8 of an inch around. And since I know, because I wrote it down, that my cover piece is 5 3/4 by 8 3/4, 1/8 of an inch on every side is 1/4 of an inch to the measurements, off the measurements. So it's going to be 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. The need to cut it to. So I'm going to get Big Bertha out. I don't actually call her Big Bertha, but I kind of like that name. What do you guys think? I should name her. But Big Bertha makes me think of Big Barda. DC comic fans out there will know what's up. 8 3/4 is how big the page is. I showed 8 1/2. And then 5 1/2. Yeah, you have any name suggestions for my big old chompy chomp here? Let me know. I might just start calling it Big Barda. But then I'm like, watch, I'll get like copyrighted by DC or something. So, I did only need the 1 sheet. I will set these aside to use in that book. And what I'm going to do is glue these down. And then that will be pretty much the end of this. I'm not going to actually glue anything in here yet because I don't know, or I haven't decided, let's say, if I'm going to sew through my cover, like all the way through to the back side or not. It depends on what I'm actually going to decide for the final bit. I typically, for books this size, will sew through the actual spine just for the extra support. If you have a smaller book and you don't need that much support, you can do the whole glued in, hidden seam binding and there are some cool tutorials for that I definitely recommend. I do not have one, and I don't know if I'll make one because it's not my favorite binding method, because I don't find it very secure. But I haven't actually decided what paper I'm going to use for the inside spine, so I will glue these down, and that will be all that we're going to do here today. This is my cat telling me that I need to wrap it up. So hi, Smokey, say hi. And that's gonna be it. I think I'm actually just gonna stop it. You don't have to watch me glue pieces of paper in, and I'm gonna pet my cat maybe, and then we'll come back on the next time. So until next time, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your faces. I am totally overwhelmed by the fact that we are almost at 1,000 subscribers on this channel, and I really hope that this video helps you out and helps you learn how to make a hardcover book. So thank you for joining me today. Love you guys. Till next time, bye. Okay, actual bonus round. Now that my cat has moved out of the filming, what I wanted to say, and I didn't realize it till I started gluing these papers down, was that another thing that I use the ruler for is making sure that this paper lines up with this paper so that as I am gluing the centerpiece in, they all kind of line up and look like they belong in the same book. So definitely use a ruler or a straight edge of some kind to make sure that one side matches the other, so that when you glue in your centerpiece, it isn't crazy looking. So that's it. That's all, you guys. Thank you for tuning in and hanging out till the end. Goodbye.